entering my Block A U.S. government class, as I normally do. Took attendance, quieted the girls down, got ready to teach, when Casey Benson raised her hand. Yes, he was huge, no. So I said, Casey, what's up? She said, I have a question. Why can't I retire too? And I thought for a while. I said, well, maybe, Casey, if you marry someone who's really wealthy, he'll let you stay home all day and you don't have to work. I don't think she liked the answer, so she said, I don't know, Mr. Pariante. I think I'm going to go home after school, go to my backyard and start digging for oil. There are lots of times in our lives, I think, when we look for shortcuts. We love shortcuts. And they are appropriate when you're trying to get someplace geographically in a car, or perhaps when you're clicking on an icon on your computer. But for the important things in life, there are no shortcuts. For the vocational things in life, there are no shortcuts. You cannot be a good student, or a good teacher, or a good parent, or a good sibling, or a good friend, or a good spouse by following shortcuts. It's hard work. I was watching the PBS NewsHour, as I wanted to do, and they had a social scientist who had just written a book about parenting, so all the parents can relate to this. She had researched it thoroughly, and she had come to the conclusion that when you break down the vocation of parenthood into all of its tasks, it's not so much fun. In fact, the title of the book is All Joy and No Fun. Now, you may think, my dear ladies, all of you, that your parents love to wake you up in the morning and love to cook that dinner for you, and even love to go to your sports events and plays. But the reality is they'd rather be on a plane with me to Honolulu. But they do it anyway. So how do we become inspired to continue with the vocational tasks that we are here to do? For most of us to be a good student. Because if you break it down to tasks, as Casey and the seniors were doing last Monday, all they could see was EP Government Test Tuesday, Senior Religion WOB Tuesday, Vote for Physics Thursday. It's a burden. So how do you see life in a broader context? That's exactly what the Jews faced in 6th century BCE. They were promised by Yahweh the promised land forever, and instead they were carried away by the Babylonians hundreds of miles away to a desert land that is modern-day Iraq. Imagine living in a desert of Iraq. And Jeremiah gets up, and they're probably expecting him to say, oh, God will fulfill his word and bring you back in 2 or 4 years, maybe 5. If you're good, you'll be back in 10. And Jeremiah says, 70 years. I don't know about you, but if God said to me, Mr. Pariante, you can retire to Hawaii, but it'll be 70 years. I'd start counting. I won't make it. And I'm sure many Jews in Babylon knew they would not make it. Which is why Jeremiah told them to marry and have children and to live for their children and grandchildren that would see the day when they could go back to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. So how do we have hope? How many of you have ever seen the film Shawshank Redemption? Do you know it was the most shown view on broadcast on cable television in 2013? And in one word, what is that film about? Hope. It's about hope. It's about people put in jail for the rest of their lives without hope of getting out. And at the end of the movie, they do. And so, to live in hope is to live in the inspiration to go on with the vocational task of being a mother, or a husband, or a student, or a teacher. Because it's no more fun being a teacher grading 150 essays than it is being a student doing all that homework. There's got to be, as Monsignor said, something more meaningful that inspires our hope to go about these tasks. What is that? The answer is in the gospel. It's love. Love inspires hope. Love really is the answer. But not Hollywood love. Not the love you see in Friends with Benefits. Not the love that you see sometimes on romantic comedies. Jesus is clear. The type of love that he says will inspire our hope is the love that lays down your life for a friend. I don't know about you, but that's a really tough standard. I've always had trouble when people say, be like Jesus, be like Jesus. I say, I don't want to be like Jesus. Why would I be like Jesus? I get crucified. I go to trial. I'm an enemy of the state, rejected by my religious leaders, put in prison, whipped. I'd rather be like Oprah. But that's the standard that we as Christians live by. To be like Jesus, to lay down our life over and over for our friend. That's why your parents make the dinner and watch your games. That's why your teachers grade the papers. And that's why ultimately you get up each day and do the homework to be the best student you can be. Because it is the love that surrounds you that inspires you to be the best in your vocation as a student, or a mother, or a teacher. Sierra D'Souza sent me an email. She's doing an article on my retirement. And one of the questions she said is, what's the best thing about being at Flintridge Sacred Heart? I said, after the free faculty lunch? I said, of course it's the students. Why else would a teacher become a teacher? But for the students. If you are not aware of the ultimate meaning of the purpose of being a teacher, then you're counting time, jumping through hoops, the same way some of you students, when you don't see the meaning for being a student. It's just a bunch of homework. It's just one task after another. But if you see the ultimate meaning, if you understand that it's born of love that gives you hope, then the task becomes easy, or as Jesus says, the burden becomes light. I want to finish with a little story of someone who makes this burden light for me. My seniors know this person, not many of the others here do. I have a very dear friend in Honolulu. He is one of my two closest friends. I've known Matthew since he was 18. Matthew just turned 50, so we've had a long friendship. Matthew is schizophrenic bipolar. I met him at the State Psychiatric Hospital. And Matthew is very excited whenever I get on a plane to go to Honolulu because it means weekly lunches, going to movies, going out to dinner and breakfast. And Matthew, when I was an administrator at the school in Honolulu, used to come dressed in all his fake jewelry. The boys at the high school didn't know what to make of Matthew. He says he's going to see the president of the school. And eventually the boys understood that Matthew and I had a special relationship born of many, many years. And many people would look at Matthew and me and his other great friend Leonard, who found him under a bridge and took him into his home, and would say, isn't that neat what Leonard and Mario do for Matthew? But my response is the opposite. Isn't it amazing what Matthew does for me? Matthew is a sign of unconditional love for me. He suffers from bipolar schizophrenia. He's lived on the street. I was on the phone with him Tuesday night. He felt threatened by someone in his care home, so he stayed outside and lived in the park. So I had to convince him not to do that again. And yet Matthew loves me so much that he does something that I'll bet not anyone in this room experiences. He writes me 2 to 3 letters every day for the last 20 years. Every day I go home, I get a letter from Matthew, my friend. Here's yesterday's letter. Dear Mario, aloha. I'm writing this letter from my home called the Capri Sun Apartments at 2414 Koa Avenue, apartment 404, Waikiki, Hawaii 96815. this present time, I am doing fantastic and well. I have a happy and good life at Leonard's and at my care home in Lower Kalihi Valley near Kalihi Stream and Bridge. I am now feeling happy and wonderful at this moment in time. Today was a really great day. I went to Leonard's and relaxed and took it easy. I really enjoyed going to Leonard's. Have a great day. Mahalo nui aloha, aloha oi. Much love and aloha always, your best friend, Matthew Eric Nagai. Now, as you can imagine, the letters don't vary day to day that much. But if anyone has a right to complain about the world, or to use Man's Search for Meaning, as Monsignor did, if anyone has the right to sit on the couch and smoke and be carried away by the Gestapo because they don't see meaning, it's Matthew. Matthew suffered more than anyone in this world. And yet he's happy. And he bestows love. And he gives me hope. And so, my prayer for all of you, especially my dear seniors, is that you become aware of the love that surrounds you. And that love will inspire you always to hope.